Welcome to the Biz Tech podcast. I'm your host, Logan, and today we have a very special edition to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Aegis Business Technologies. And I figured who better to interview for that than the man himself, Mr. Aegis, Blake Dowling. So, Blake, tell us a little about yourself. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? What did you want to be when you grew up? And all that fun stuff.
Thank you, Logan. It's an honor to be here on the Biz Tech set today. And, one of my first dreams was hopefully I could be on the Biz Tech podcast one day. As a young boy in Dothan, Alabama, that's kind of where it all started for me.
Absolutely. It is quite a big deal, and it is quite an honor.
It's special. It's really special. Let's see. Where did it all begin? I was born in Houston, Texas. Did not live there very long, 0 to 2. Not a lot going on during that time frame. Not a lot of career moves, not a lot of personal or social life activities, but really started in Dothan, Alabama. I'm from LA, as I like to tell people. They're like, oh, really cool. And I'm like, yeah, lower Alabama, not Los Angeles. I had a high-powered, diesel-fueled hillbilly accent like you've never believed. And 20 years in Florida and Georgia has kind of diluted that. But Dothan to high school in Tallahassee, went to McClay High School in Tallahassee, on to Gainesville, the University of Florida. 5 years, quality time there. Got my degree, off to Atlanta, worked in the music business. 16 years at Aegis after that, and bam, that's where we are, man. That brings you from A to Z real quick.
Real quick, and it seems like every moment in your life has led up to this event. Same with me, so I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have you, and welcome to this podcast.
Thank you. It's like a culmination. The stars have aligned today to bring us together at Level Up Studios with producer Josh.
Yes. So kind of piggybacking off of that, what was your favorite subject in school growing up, and what did you study in college?
Never liked school. Never liked studying anything, really. History would be one of the only things I did enjoy. High school graduation day. Families in town. We're at the dining hall in McClay. I never really made good grades either. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. But they're like, Excellence in History Award for A+ average both semesters, Mr. Blake Dowling. My father fell out of his chair. What? Academic award? That was one of the one and onlys. I did love history. I had a fantastic teacher, Mr. Burley, who's no longer with us, but an amazing man, told great stories and made history interesting. When I got to college, I majored in journalism, political science, business, something else. And then, oddly enough, I couldn't pass college math. So after 3 attempts, I sought an expert's opinion, and they said I had a massive learning disability in mathematics. And why hadn't I figured that out before? I'm like, I just thought I couldn't read maps or couldn't follow instructions clearly. It's more on the logic side of math, not the addition. But anyway, got tested for that, and they let me finish up my math credits at Santa Fe Community College. My degree ended up being recreation, parks, and tourism. So there you have it.
That is quite an interesting degree to get. I'm a history fan myself. I have a degree in history, so I can relate to that for sure.
Excellent.
You mentioned music, always being interested in music. We know that. So what was kind of the last album you listened all the way through? Like start to finish, listen to the whole thing, maybe your favorite artist, whichever album it is. I'm just pretty curious to know which one it is.
Wow, that's a great question. Okay, so my buddy Doug Iverson just had his 50th birthday, and his wife engineered this great idea via an extremely long text thread with like 20 people in it that lasted a month to get him a record player and everybody, all his friends and family, to pick him up their favorite piece of vinyl. And this one guy, McKay, I hope you're listening, McKay, claims to be or is an expert in vinyl, and basically anything 70s or below is perfect. Analog, original vinyl, and a lot of the 80s and 90s and current stuff is it's not as original as you would think because it's digital. It doesn't have that pop that the vinyl experience provides. So I picked him up David Bowie, or an early record, Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run, and Aerosmith's first album. I got them all 3 because long story, but anyway, what I discovered from that trip, because everybody said on the text thread what they got, and somebody said, have you ever listened to Boston's first album all the way through? So that came out in 1976.
Killer album.
And, Rock and Roll Band and those huge songs, of course I knew them. Never listened to the record, so I don't have a record player. So Spotify, all the way through, first album, Boston, unfreaking believable. The songs that I hadn't heard sound familiar like you've heard them before. And then last Saturday, we blasted some Neil Diamond to truly show that we have entered old age on our beer garden patio. But Neil's the man, too. So Boston, long story short.
Boston. An interesting tidbit about that album, when it first came out, it was impossible for them to perform it live because the technology didn't exist. So the lead singer of this band, I can't think of his name, but he actually he went to MIT and he created the technology to be able to bring it to people live. So Boston's a great band. That's a great album. And yeah, for sure. So kind of moving more into a serious question here. What are some of your proudest life and career moments so far?
So, the one that's always top of mind, right back to the mathematics story that I just shared. So I'm at Santa Fe Community College. I'm taking that math class to graduate from college. My Ford Explorer is packed out front. I have moved out of my home in Gainesville. I've been there 5 years. It was very much home. I was sad, but I was ready to move to Atlanta. I signed a lease. My buddy Schmitty had a house rented across the street from Smith's Old Bar in Atlanta, the greatest bar in America. Thank you, Bo Nolan. 2 girls were living with us, Lisette and Tina. It was going to be awesome. Our friends Deborah and Larry were literally across the street. But before that could happen, I had to pass this class. So I take the test, and the professor, he knows the story. And he's looking at me. He's like, "You want me to grade this now?" As I'm handing it in. And I said, "Yes, sir, please." Because I'm thinking already plan B. All right, remote study. This is before you could study online like it was no big deal. This is the old school days, barely internet. Just got my first email address from UF to give you context. So he grades it in front of me. He's like, "What do you need?" I'm like, "I need a 70. I need a C. I need a C to graduate college and begin my life. Do not be a burden on this town and this institution to come back and take one class." And he gives me the stare. He X's a lot of things. I couldn't do the math, obviously, in my head because of the obvious reasons. But he just looks at me, writes 70 on it, hands it to me. I got my degree. I went to Atlanta, did an internship as part of my studies, and then started working in the music business for the Charlie Mars Band, Sister Hazel, Dexter Freebish, Chuck Carrier, Christina LeRae, Marathon, a few other acts. We had a ball, but it all started with that 70. That's got to be one of my favorite moments. I mean, getting the gold record for Sister Hazel's work not too long after that was huge. Being able to put a book out last year from our experiences during the pandemic was also huge. Being able to send my stepson Reed to McClay, where I went to high school. Jeannie and I decided it was the right place for him. He wanted to go there. Partnership with his granddad. He had that experience, got to enjoy McClay. Wonderful institution here in Tallahassee. Those are some things off the top of my head. And, when it comes to career and joy and the moment, I remember leaving Knoxville after a UT Florida game, 2001. And my friend Jay Smith, his wife Bree, we're rolling from Knoxville post-game. Someone was designated driver. It wasn't me. We're driving by Chattanooga, and this is back in FM radio days. Not that FM radio isn't around, but you wanted to listen to something in the car, you put on the radio. So the Chattanooga station's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, Sister Hazel's latest Change Your Mind is rolling on the waves." And so they blasted this song, and I'm like, cool. I helped them work on that video. We helped promote the song with Universal Records, the tour, the whole shebang. And no joke, the next song, they're like, "And now, a new band out of Austin, Texas, Dexter Freebish, with their hit, Leaving Town." And I'm like, holy guacamole. There's the 2 bands that I work with. That's my career. That's my livelihood. That's what I do. That's my craft. And I got to hear it on the waves with 2 of my oldest friends. That's cool, man. That's what it's all about. And whether it's a book, a song, a sale, taking pride in what you do, that's my answer.
Absolutely. So, knowing that you were on tour with a lot of these different bands, you have any kind of like a funny story that sticks out in your mind of like, this kind of summarizes what it's like to be on tour with a bunch of musicians?
I think we'd have to have the After Hours podcast to answer that question. The road is the road is crazy as advertised on one side, and it's also extremely boring on the other, which not as advertised. You're sitting there in Branson, Missouri with 6 hours to kill. Like, what? We don't go on for 5 hours. There's nothing to do. The food sucks. Hotel, wow, another Hampton Inn. That's on a good day too. The road is all about who you're with. The road of life, the actual road with the band. When I was actually a tour manager with the Charlie Mars band, I think one of our funnier days was, getting tattoos on a day off of tour. He got a huge phoenix on his arm, and it was bleeding everywhere. He's like, "What are you getting?" I'm like, "A little bat." Like an inch big. I'm like, that looks horrible, man. But venues, road, hotels, it's awesome. If you have that call, great. If you don't, skip it.
Absolutely. And so, moving away from kind of your background, now that we have that information, kind of want to talk about Aegis. That's the main thing we're going to talk about today, the 25th anniversary. So I'm interested to know, let's talk about how you got started at Aegis. How did you hear about the opportunity? How did it come into the fold, and all that fun stuff?
Wow, that's a big question. It seems like I've been doing it forever. It seems like some of those stories I'm telling are from another life. But so 2006, I decided to move to Florida. I'm in Atlanta. I'd been there almost 10 years. The music industry had flipped backwards, forwards, sideways. Napster had come on the scene, downloading music. Record labels who'd been doing the same model of business for millennia had to find a new way to do business. Layoffs were rampant. Things were not happening like they used to. You could download a song for free. So all of a sudden, the music business is different. I decided to get out of it. I got a job in technology in Atlanta. Had a great run with New Bridges / Trailblazer Systems, and I was able to take those skills back home to Tallahassee. My friend Davison Dunlap introduced me to a guy named Steve Evans, retired IBM executive, and he said you should meet a lady named Pam and her company Aegis and see what they've got going on. I saw a really good company that could potentially do something fantastic here in our market in North Florida, and they hired me as an account executive. It was a great opportunity. I'll always be appreciative to Pam and Brad for that opportunity. And I took it and ran with it. We rebranded the company. We built a sales team. We built sales pipeline, all of the things, the social media presence, the industry-specific software. We evolved from a break-and-fix IT shop into a managed services client. We bundled everything, cloud applications, cybersecurity, and tech support all into one contractual engagement. We started working in different markets, different verticals. We love associations and lobbyists and manufacturing facilities, lawyers, doctors, accountants. Next thing you know, I'm the director of sales. And then I decided, let's get you a really obnoxious long title. I was now part of the management team, and I was the chief business development officer. It really flows right off the tongue. Great opportunity there. We continued the successes that we were having, continued to grow the team, all the while still being a small business and being deeply ingrained in the community. That was so fun because during the music business and my time working IT in Atlanta, I wasn't a chamber member. I wasn't a chair of a local not-for-profit or anything like that. You really get to sink your teeth into Tallahassee and be part of the community if you choose to do so. And we did as a company. And the next thing you know, I'm the CEO. It was one of the biggest honors that happened by default. I started running the company because our former CEO got sick, and she had to step away to take care of herself. And she entrusted the former management team to run the business. And when it came time to answer that tough question, whatever it was, customers pissed, they're on one. Dell's on two. They said the bill hadn't been paid. Police are knocking on the door about the neighbor complaining about something. Who's going to take these calls and these questions? So I did. And organically, I led the organization. And when she came back, she's like, looks good. So I officially took over a couple of years after that. That was over 6 years ago. We rebuilt the management team to its current grouping, which is Kevin Drake and Louis Posky. And the three of us have led for over 6 years. And we are blessed to be in that position. And to go from account executive to boss was one of the proudest moments of my life. And I appreciate you asking about it.
Absolutely. So now that we've talked about, that is the proudest moment that you had, what has been the biggest challenge of your career so far, either at Aegis or just overall? Like, what is the biggest challenge you've faced?
Yeah, personally, it was the learning disability I just mentioned. But biggest challenge, man, I guess you go back to a couple of years ago, March 13th, 2020, and I was sitting in here with producer Josh and County Commissioner Kristen Dozier, and we're talking about the pandemic, and we were on autopilot to some degree in Aegis. I mean, you're a service business, so you're never really on autopilot because something can break at any second, and it can be a crisis that wasn't there 4 seconds ago. But overall, we found our model being a managed services provider. Things were good team, great consultants, great admin, great support staff. But man, there's no book of dummies how to run a business during a pandemic. And not just run a business, but to be point for every other organization who's figuring out how to work remote and to have the technology to do it. March was insane. VPN licenses, webcams, laptops, tablets, these things that people used to run their businesses remotely. Yeah, well, they all were coming out of our office. A webcam, which you could get in a day or two from a vendor, was more like a week. Laptop, more like a month. VPN licenses, same day usually, week, 10 days. And funneling all of that to make sure that our clients are taken care of was the biggest challenge I can think of. It was crazy. To learn we're an essential business was an eye-opener.
It was news to you.
I looked on the CISA forum, like, March 14th. I'm like, all right, what do we have to do to get ready for this? Oh, God, essential business. Yeah, we're on there. And hell yeah. I mean, to be part of the solution versus part of the problem, because we all had enough to deal with during 2020, 2021, and even still today. So yeah, being an essential business for North Florida and for the clients that trust us with their technology, to be able to lean on them digitally during that time and vice versa was awesome.
Absolutely. So, we've kind of talked about what Aegis is like now. I'm pretty interested to know what it was like 16 years ago. It was a break-fix model. So kind of how did that look like? What did the day-to-day look like 16 years ago versus how it looks now?
Don't disrespect to anyone listening or watching that might have been around at that time. It was a lot of winging it going on. I was told my first day on the job that I would not have a color. And in the world we live in, I'm like, I don't know what to make of that statement. And they said, well, we use Microsoft Calendar for scheduling, and everybody gets color, and we're out of colors at like 11 or 12 employees. So no blue, no gray, no yellow for me. So I'm like, well, there's maybe a sign. We should get some industry-specific software to provide scheduling that meets the needs of the business. And it wasn't just my idea, obviously, but I helped fuel that decision, and that was tough. And this is right around the time of MySpace and the first iPhone and very early cloud technologies. Cybersecurity was not an issue. I mean, you would get a fax that say, I got some diamonds, give me 10 million. I mean, it was so different, man, versus today. Cloud everything, cybersecurity scares around every corner. And to be able to still be relevant and still be growing as a managed service provider in 2022 versus 2006. And I was a lot younger. No gray hair, man. No gray hair back then.
No gray hair. That is a bit different, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's always interesting to me to think about how companies had to adapt during the pandemic, and to be a company that's, a lot of people are going to lean towards of like, what do we do? And just, thank you for your service as the CEO, Lewis, Kevin, everybody. It's a big project to take that on. How do we get people to work remote who now have to work remote when we never really thought about that before? So that's always really interesting to me, and I think Aegis did a really good job of that. So hats off to you and hats off to the team.
Oh, and it's changed the way the world works, and our business included. This morning, admin team wasn't quite at their desks. Phones were ringing. I grabbed it. It was a young lady from the Alzheimer's Project who's one of our clients, like, I can't get on my Zoom call. I'm at a hotel. Help. The nature of service tickets has changed. One funny story, we had a lobbying client who will remain nameless who had a similar request 3 weeks ago, demanded on-site support immediately. We ran over there and they had a cover on their camera phone. That's why they couldn't get on their Zoom.
Those pesky camera covers.
But that's what we're here for. The problem can be that, or it could be extremely difficult. Ransomware attack, hardware failure, internet outage, but we'll take it, man. Small problems, big problems, that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. So, I've read some of your columns and I've seen your columns be posted in, different media. So how did you get started writing columns? Did you have like an inspiration for that, or kind of how did that unfold, and what's your inspiration for writing them?
Well, as I jogged through career choices during my majors, I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a VJ. Remember MTV VJs? Wanted to be the lead singer of Motley Crue. That didn't work out. Vince, what are you doing, man? Get off tour. Motley Crue and Def Leppard touring this summer, Anyway, writing was a dream, and I never really pursued it. I had other things going on. I was chasing the dream in the music business. I was chasing the dream to run my own company one day, not chasing the dream to run for political office. I think that is, for another life. We can leave that one behind. But long story short, I'm at an event. Aegis won Technology Company of the Year from the Chamber of Commerce around 2008 or 9. And I went on stage, and for anyone watching, I did this Nixon pose on stage and was dancing and ran up to the stage, and nobody else is like, everybody's like, thank you very much. And I'm like, woo, what's happening? We won. This is so freaking awesome. So I like to think either A, I look like a clown, or B, I brought some enthusiasm to the table. That's what I'm going to stick with. But the former editor of the Tallahassee Democrat, Dave Hodges, was there, and he's like, man, I got you right up close. Best shot of you doing that Nixon thing, accepting the award. I'm going to put you on the front page. And I said, awesome, man. I still have that picture on my wall. Great moment as far as proud moments go. And I'd just been promoted to director of sales around that time. And he called back the next day and was like, so you ever written anything? We could use a technology columnist. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. I'd written a press release or two maybe in the music business days, things like that. I helped with electronic press kits and things like that and overall messaging, but it was new territory. So I wrote a column about iPads being used to test kids with autism. And shout out to the good people at Gretchen Everhart here in town. That ended up starting a relationship with them, which still continues today. But that was it. Wrote my first column, and I've been writing monthly columns for the Democrat for 10 years. A little bit after that, the team at Florida Politics approached me to write one column for Influence magazine, I believe. That led to a weekly column with Florida Politics with Peter and Phil. Thank you, gentlemen, for that opportunity. I've also written for McKinsey and the team at Roland for 850 magazine. Roland does a great job in the community. And, the Orlando Sentinel, Dothan Eagle, a couple others here and there. But I absolutely love it. It's fun. And it's great for the brand. I mean, I try not to write about Aegis all the time. I write about technology and how to protect yourself. And then I write about the music business. And my time there, I'm sure people think I look back a little too often. But, you got to celebrate the then and you got to celebrate the now. And I try to use my writing to do both. I absolutely love it.
For sure. So, knowing all of that, how did you kind of get the idea for a book? Professionally Distanced is a book that you've released. What gave you the idea to put it all into a book?
Well, the book is huge in Belgium, just so everyone knows out there. Huge. We're on the charts, man. We're selling dozens of copies in Belgium and in Uruguay. But the idea was not mine. I needed an idea and an item for the Chamber of Commerce, the Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce, for their annual conference that we sponsor. We always put a swag item in the gift bag, and I wanted something over the top. The suntan lotion we made a couple years ago that says, don't get burned by your technology. Or the deck of cards that says, don't gamble with your technology. It was time to freshen it up, come up with something new. And I had breakfast with Jay Revel at Red Eye Coffee in Midtown. He says, dude, I got it. Write a book. I just wrote one. It's easy. And I'm like,
it's easy.
I'm like, and I'm just living through this pandemic from the Aegis perspective that we all live. But I'm like, dude, I'm really ready to take that on. He's like, no. Take your top 20 columns that I just mentioned from last year. You got a ton to choose from. Diary of the Pandemic from a local CEO. People will love it. People will relate to it. We all lived it. Let's do it. And so he helped me with all the details, getting it on Amazon, proofing it, getting it to the team at Roland Publishing. Again, don't just write for them. They helped me with the book project. Caroline Allen did the photos. Ken Block from Sister Hazel, pulled on that old relationship. He wrote the introduction. And man, we put introductions to each chapter to make it fresh, so it's not just a compilation. I wrote a nice introduction too, threw some pictures in there. And it was awesome. We put 500 copies in the gift bag for the chamber. We sold it at Midtown Reader. Sally Bradshaw was an amazing supporter of the project. When I walked in her store and saw it with the new releases next to like Ken Follett and Justin Cronin, and I'm like, wow, that is freaking awesome. I still give it away to clients as a, hey, thanks for working with Aegis type gesture. I've mailed it to some friends that are mentioned in there, and it was one of my favorite projects ever. It's a pleasure to combine a passion with branding / marketing, all for the corporate good. So good stuff.
Absolutely. And it is a great read for all of you out there who are interested in, hey, what's my next book? Professionally Distanced by Aegis CEO Blake Dowling.
And I only had to buy him Chick-fil-A lunch to say that, ladies and gentlemen. It's pure
disclosure.
No,
that one was free. That one was free. So, as we wrap up here, what's next for Aegis? What's next for you?
Oh, man. No more books for a while. We're going to celebrate this 25th anniversary for the next couple of weeks. We work in a business that is extremely fast-paced. As I said, crisis can knock any frickin' second. So to be able to have a little bit of a moment to breathe, to smell the roses, to enjoy the successes we've had. We're not Microsoft. We're a small business in Tallahassee, but we're a team that wins awards. We're a team that produces at a high level. I'm damn proud to be the leader of that team and to be able to have a team, especially the core of the team that's been there 10 years or more. Bill, Jeannie, Kevin, Lewis, Crystal. We promoted a gentleman, Bradley Williams, to senior tech today in our staff meeting. It feels great, man, when you can combine a team that rallies, not just for the good times, like today, 25th anniversary. We're going to celebrate it all frickin' summer. But when you got to hunker down and solve a problem, we had a couple this week, required working late, staying on phone with support until the problem was solved. I mean, that's what we do. We solve problems. And the solutions don't always come easy, but we're going to keep at it. We're going to keep winning awards, hopefully. We're going to keep maintaining our relevancy here in Tallahassee, Florida. And we're going to say thanks. That's what's next for Aegis. We're going to say thanks to everyone that trusts us with their technology. It's a big deal. It's not just a relationship. It's not just a vendor. We're not, the copy shop around the corner. We're not the, national partner that's going to put you on hold. We're the local people that you can trust with your technology. So we're going to keep on keeping on while doing new things. We're rolling out a SOC, a Security Operations Center this summer, so we can do vulnerability scans and new offerings and solutions that the world is demanding. It's a whole different world than when we started in 1997. But for me, it's Friday. I'm going to watch the end of Ozark this weekend. I'm going to drink some IPAs. I'm going to grill some steaks. And I'm going to be thankful that I've got the best years ahead of me and our company. And I appreciate you asking the question.
For sure. And, thank you to you and thank you to the entire Aegis staff for what you do in the community, service, support. Everything that you guys do is really great. And we're happy to have you in the community.
Thank you, Logan. It's been a pleasure to be on the Biz Tech podcast today. And if you want to buy the book, it's available on Amazon. If you need to get a hold of Aegis, aegisbiztech.com. We'll see you.
See you then.